name is Rocelle. Today we will be making chicken Alfredo pizza. This is our chicken. This is chicken tenderloins. And we're going to put all this chicken into the pan with some oil here. There's not a certain amount you want to use, but you need to use just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And after that, you just spread it around in there. So it coats the bottom of the pan. And then you add your chicken and make sure the chickens aren't stuck together. They cook faster when they're not stuck together. You might have to squish them a little bit. These shrink. Pan. It doesn't matter what type of pan that you use as long as it's deep and it has enough room for your chicken. Once this is done, you should remove the bowl that had the chicken in it. Take it over here, and before you do anything else, you should wash your hands so you don't cross-contaminate anything. And you should always wash your hands for 30 seconds. And make sure that you get just above the wrist so you don't have any cross-contamination. Use the elbow to turn it off, and then get your paper towel. The next thing that you use, you don't have to put anything on it. I like garlic salt, so I always add garlic salt, and again, there's not a certain amount, it's just perspective or how much you like. Once that's done, you put this on top and you let it cook. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes. This is the chicken, and it's coming along, cooking fine. What you're mostly looking for is that all this pink is gone, and that all the fluids coming from it are clear and not colored. But this is looking good for right now, so we will just leave it. Fourth a stick of butter. You put it in here, and you need to get the pan a little hot ahead of time, and it'll melt. Especially if the butter is cold, it's better to get the pan warm ahead of time. As you can see, it's melting, and you let that melt in there. Now we're using 1 cup of heavy whipping cream for the Alfredo sauce. And you have to wait for this to be completely melted. And once that is completely melted, you add this, and then you have to let that start to simmer or boil. And then you have to let it boil for 5 minutes. And this is just about melted. There's just a little bit in there still. And it's all gone now. out exact, you can get a scraper here and just scrape out what's in there. And you can see all the ripples in there, and eventually it'll become like foam looking. So at this point you want to turn it down a little bit to about a 3, and then you set the timer here, or a timer if you have one, for 5 minutes, and it's got to do this for 5 minutes. And by the time it's done, it'll be kind of foamy looking. This is the finished project of the Alfredo after 5 minutes. And now what you do is you pull it off and kind of whip together the foam. And then you have to add your cheese. It calls for a cup and a half a cup of cheese. So this is Parmesan cheese, shredded Parmesan cheese, not grated, shredded. Although you can use grated. You add that, and then you use an Italian cheese, and you use another half a cup and a fourth a cup, so that makes 3/4 a cup. So 2 3/4 a cups make a cup and a half. And that's your cup and a half of cheese in there. And now you also add your garlic. It depends on how garlicky you like things. I always add 2 teaspoons. But you can add 1 or more than that. It just depends on your preference. And now you have to stir it all together. Kind of whip it so that the whipping cream and the cheese gel together. Otherwise it'll just become one big ball of cheese in there. And then what you want to do, once you get it kind of whipped together some like this, it's got a very thick consistency as you can see. I want the cheese to be melted just a little more. So I will put it back on here on a low setting for a couple more minutes and let it cook. Just so the cheese melts in with the whipping cream. Now here is our chicken, about 20 minutes later. It is good to go now. It's cooked all the way through. You can see that the fluid inside of here is pretty much clear fluid. And you can see that the chicken is taken on a gray-white base, which means that it's all done. So at this point, I would add, you don't have to add this to your Alfredo pizza, but I like it on mine. So at this point is when I would add this to the chicken after I chop up the chicken. And it's up to you. You can either pull your chicken out of the pan and cut it all up by hand, or you can chop it up in your pan. And I chop mine up in the pan by going like this with my thing. And it depends on how big or small you want your pieces of chicken. And I cut them like that. And at this point is when I would dump this in there after I chop up all the chicken. This is the Alfredo sauce, pretty much all congealed now. So this is done. So we're going to turn it off, take it off of the stove, and now you need to pour it into a container, which I'm going to use here. You pour it into here. And then you gotta scoop out what's in there. You want to get it off. Now just this Alfredo sauce alone makes about 2 cups, and you only need 1 cup per pizza, so it makes, you can use it for 2 pizzas. Now once this is done, you put it in the fridge to allow it to thicken up, because you need it to be more of a pizza sauce instead of a sauce you would put on pasta. So this is the Alfredo once it's been cooled off. So as you can see, it's very thick. So you have to warm it up in the microwave for about 30 seconds so you can actually do something with it. You want to preheat your oven to 450 for your pizza crust mostly. And you only cook your pizza for about 8 to 12 minutes. Okay, so now the Alfredo here is ready. As you can see, it's gotten a little bit softer, so you just stir it up.
Gooey.
And right now it's a perfect paste. This is exactly what it should look like to put on your pizza. So now you want to add your Alfredo to the pizza. And this is a thin crust pizza. I have this other pizza out over here because this is a thicker crust. There's also whole wheat pizza, and you can use any type of pizza crust that you want to. So once this is on here, you just spread it around. And you just want to make sure you cover everything, but you don't want it overflowing on the sides. So make sure you give yourself just about a finger end, enough room to about right there around the whole pizza. And you should be okay. And you just spread it evenly however you want it. And once you do that, this is the finished chicken with the mushroom and the onions. As you can see, I chopped them all up and they're all good to go. So you just add this to the top of the pizza. And you just add it all around. Try not to make it too heavy in some areas, especially on a thin crust pizza. You want to make sure that the toppings are more evenly distributed amongst the pizza, or it'll kind of fold in on itself once it's done. Once you get there, even though that's not fresh chicken juice, you should still wash your hands because you handle meat. I have to wash it as long because it's not fresh juice. You just want to make sure you're not cross-contaminating food. And now you can add the broccoli on top. This goes on top of the pizza. And now you add the mozzarella cheese. Also, I would like to say the broccoli is also something you don't have to add. Just depends on what you like on your pizza. Or your Alfredo is more correct there. Now here, you just cover everything. Fully cover it. You want it, oh, you know, nice and covered. And mozzarella cheese spreads as it cooks, so you don't have to like make it disappear, but you should cover it enough. I think that's good enough there. This is the Alfredo pizza, about to go in the oven. The oven is preheated to 450 now, so we're going to put it in. And I already have one that I made earlier done for you guys. So I'm pulling that out now. And this is what it'll look like when it's all done. You don't want to cook it to where it's getting too dark, but just like a light brown, more white color, and everything is cooked through. And there's your pizza. If you would like this recipe, you can go to facebook.com and look up Jennifer Dorn, or you could go to www.jenniferdorn02.blogspot.com.